Hi everyone, so John Chen again with Jay Blakemore, and we're going to be talking about his new book, The Trump Testament. And before we dive into that, Jay, I think one of the things that I always like to talk about is get into the origin story. And so what is it about like kind of your background, like kind of that led to, wanting to kind of really create this, new book of yours?
Okay, what really got me into it is, I guess, in my background, I'm an actor. I was an actor until recently. I retired from it, and but even as a child, I was doing a lot more writing than acting, and I'm one of those rage writers. You know,
Okay.
if something pisses me off, I'm
Mm.
good at writing. All right. So I found myself first. I found myself writing YA novels, and I got a really nice
Hmm.
agent in Manhattan. And he's a good guy, but we weren't able to move the novels past the he calls them gatekeepers,
Mm.
and I still had this thirst to keep writing. And then Donald Trump just kind of walked into my life. He just kind of, it's like he came from an escalator from God right down into my life. And I kind of pride myself on having a sense of humor about most things.
Mm.
And I was like, one day I found myself at my regular job during a break, just writing stuff. Actually, it was in response to a Facebook post
Hmm.
where somebody had talked about Donald Trump grabbing women, and I wrote it back, and they were like, "Yeah, that's very, very Christian." And I wrote back my kind of response, and my
Mm.
response was written like the King James Bible.
Mm.
And the Lord did walk unto women, and he did grab himself a holy handful, and et cetera, et cetera. And people, I just found a lot of people liking it, and I said, well, let's just keep doing that. And so I kept doing it at first, just as kind of a writing exercise, and before I knew it,
Mm.
I had a whole book. um, and and it
Nice.
was all of these different chapters, like "Rat ye not on the Lord," and "The Lord is my Twitterer," and "The Divine Visitation of the Ver Melania," and stuff like that. And I was like, well, let's just try to compile them and go a different route, because my agent doesn't handle humor. I mean, not satire. And I said, let's go a different route and see what happens if you self-publish them.
Mm.
And then it just kept snowballing, man. Next thing I knew, somebody was saying, hey, you know what would be great? Biblical illustrations.
Mm.
Hey, you know what would be great? If it looked like it was on parchment paper. You
Mm.
know, you know. And before I do it, all of these really, I hate to sound so old, but all these really groovy people were getting on board
Hmm.
and pitching in and giving me illustrations, which I had to pay for, but illustrations. And then another guy gave me the parchment paper and did all the editing for
Wow.
nothing, and it just felt right. And so
Nice.
that's the origin story.
Yeah, and I think that's what's
Very long.
interesting. Like I think one of the kind of cliches is this idea that the lone creative and stuff like that. But I think what you really hit on as well is just like it's a very collaborative process, as you and I've seen on set and stuff like that. What is it about that like that you find that really works much better than working on your own and stuff? Like in other words, how does that kind of help to motivate and kind of keep you going and stuff?
Well, the first thing to remember is, I like to refer to writing as being more on a motorcycle than in a car,
Hmm.
because most of it is going to be you. But
Mm.
the first thing to remember, even then, is even as you're making this,
Mm.
even as you think that it's all about you, you've got your outline, you've got everything done. Even as you're doing that, you're not alone. I mean,
Yeah.
in my particular case, I have, I think, 5 people that I turn to on a regular basis when I'm writing something, and go, hey, can you take a look at this? Tell me if it makes you laugh. Tell me if this part makes you cry. Tell me if
Mm.
this part pisses you off. Tell me how much I suck. which is the majority. But I have those people, and it's basically what makes collaboration work for me is that I just look at it as another support system. You had a mother, you had a father, you may still have those people, you still may have brothers and sisters, and these are people you would turn to if you suddenly hit the skids and you didn't have a job and all of those kinds of things, and they care. Collaboration in its best is exactly like that. So it's important to choose collaborators not that are just there, not that just have talent, but people you like and people who like you. Okay. And so, yes, collaboration is truly important on this kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, though, that like not not all input is alike, because certainly I mean clearly, like a book like this is not for the ultra right wing conservative, stuff like that. I mean like
I'm hoping Donald Trump will buy a copy because it does have his name in it a lot.
Right.
He likes it. Don, I want to look at you right now. You like your name. Buy my book. Okay, go on.
and certainly, like I think what's interesting is that, like, just even what you're talking about, where you have the people that, like, they may be talented and stuff like that, and they may give quality feedback, but they may also just not be like kind of the fans of this kind of like satire and stuff like that, or that it just may not click and resonate with them. So I think that's the thing that, like, it's interesting, is that still, even then, it's a matter of like kind of being selective of which feedback and input that is valuable and which ones aren't and stuff.
Right. And what's really great about this particular book, or in general, what's really great in general is I choose people from different walks of life to be the people who are kind of my gatekeepers. As I'm writing the book, like the first book I wrote was called Here Comes Anti-Claus, and it was about a kid who lives in a small town in Ohio, and he finds out that a kid comes to his school. This kid is super charismatic and really handsome and all this stuff. And he finds out that this kid, through a turn of events, is actually an elf, 400 years old, and that he is there to stop Krampus from killing the most hopeful person on Earth. The person throughout on Christmas Day, all the hope on Earth will be channeled through this person. And if Krampus kills this person, it will destroy hope and lead the world to civil war.
Wow.
Okay. So, and my main character's name was Wilt Pilt. So he's saddled with this name, and he's also the only black kid in a small town in Ohio, and his best friend is gay, and it's like everything going against it. Oh, and he doesn't play sports at all. He's awful at it. And he's tiny. So all of these things are against him. And I was like, okay, so I need people that are going to read this as I'm going through to tell me that worked or that didn't work. I had people, I was lucky to have people from the age of 12 years old, a girl who was 12, to a person that was 85, I think it was. And all different walks of life, all different ethnicities. And I was able to, I had a listening ear. Sometimes they were wrong, but I had a listening ear, and I went on with that. I think that's invaluable to writing. And anything you do collaboratively can find that. You can find a way to have someone, I know that it sounds stupid, to have someone walk in as the work is in progress and say, here's what I like the most and here's what I don't like. But it's not stupid. It's basically the smartest thing I believe you could do, because you can ignore what they say if they're wrong. If they're not coming from the place you're coming from, you can ignore it. But if they come up with something that you just didn't think of, that's beautiful. I mean, that's beautiful, because you go like, yeah, that's a tack I could go from. and you're not stealing their ideas. You're just asking for input.
Right.
And they know that. So I have had people argue with me, by the way, that, where I go, no, I don't agree with you. And they're like, well, you have to. That's how it has to be written. It's like, no, dude, you were here because I wanted to ask you.
Right.
Because I wanted you to write it. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. People talk about balance, but I've started kind of really hitting on this term of tension at different times, that it's more dynamic, like you said, with riding a motorcycle, it's a lot of things in motion at the same time, so to me it's more about tensions, like kind of, that different times, you're leaning into a turn, or you're kind of, like different times that it's just kind of pulling you in different directions, but you still got to have that kind of direction that you as the creator, or the ultimate kind of creator or something like that, or ultimate, the artist behind everything, that it's your vision and stuff like that. So I think one of the things that I think it's also kind of a interesting question during this time stuff, and you and I talked a little bit offline about it, is like, how do you stay creative? How do you kind of keep going, during this time where, like, everything's on lockdown, and people are just basically like kind of, in some ways, like just vegging out in front of Netflix and stuff.
Yeah, and what you have to do, I think, is, you have to tie. I think you have to tie creativity to sanity,
Mm.
and say that creativity is the lifeboat that's going to keep you sane when you're sitting at home, nothing else to do. I'm again. Living in a place where I'm a little bit on the fortunate side. I work for the Los Angeles Public Library System. So one of the things that I've had to do during this time is watch a lot of training videos to make me better at my job from my home, and it's basically like having to go to college again. Um, One that struck me in particular was how to deal with stress during times of COVID. It was a very, very, very good presentation, and what they brought up in there is that one of the, you do need your routines, but one of the things that you really need is to do something you have never done before.
Right.
Something you have never done before, and absolutely learn it while you're at home.
Right.
Now that doesn't mean don't reach for, well, I don't speak, ancient Greek. Don't reach for that. Reach for something like, learning to play the ukulele, or something like that. In my particular case, the thing I had never done before in my life was I had never designed a T-shirt. I had never worked on T-shirts, and so I came up with this I had to learn from the bottom up how to create stencils, and what paints to use, what worked and what didn't work. And I came up with this super cool sleeveless, which one is he? Scarlet Spider T-shirt. It looks just like the one the Scarlet Spider wears in the comics. He wears this kind of blue sleeveless hoodie over his uniform, and it's got the spider emblem on the back.
Nice.
I came up with that, and it wasn't just a sense of accomplishment. Don't go for the sense of accomplishment. That's not what it's about. What it's about is just diving into something you've never done. It keeps mental plasticity, and it makes you feel vibrant and necessary. Sitting in front of Netflix does not feel vibrant and necessary all the time. However, I will say that I also run a online book club. Zoom meetings once a month, and love for you to show up. It's a graphic novel book club, and it's only for adults. So I've challenged myself to have to come up with a presentation at the beginning of each book club. And so I am now more versed in, say, the last book we did was Superman Smashes the Klan by Gene Luen Yang. Sorry. Okay. Well, boy, he's going to find me and beat me up. So we did that book, and that book is based on a radio serial.
Mm.
Okay. So now I know more about radio serials. I had to study them, and now that's a point of interest and something that I can learn more about. See, it's that kind of thing. This is what will keep you sane.
Right.
And also the creative things that you already do will keep you sane during COVID. But the trick is to find something to do every day that is not sitting in front of a television, that is not in just the regular routine, you know?
Absolutely. And then one of the things I also find that it's interesting about the creative process is it's kind of like I always draw a lot of parallels to the hero's journey, because no matter how well things are going, you always reach that dark, desperate moment and stuff like that. So when that happens, what has been your kind of go-to answer or way to kind of get out of that pit of despair?
Yeah. I had something in particular happen with this book. I don't know if we've said the name of the book yet, but it's called The Trump Testament. I am Jay Blakemore, just the letter J, and the last name Blakemore, Blakemore. And it is available right now. By the way, today is what, the 12th? From the 11th through the 15th.
Okay.
You can download it for free at Amazon. Just type in my name, Jay Blakemore, J the letter, and the last name Blakemore, and you'll see my book come up in your search. You can download it for completely free, the digital download. And then after that,
we'll definitely provide a link for folks as well.
Cool. After that, it's going to cost you all of $5. Okay, so big money. But what I ran into a really big one recently on the book, because I'm having it printed through an imprint company called Lulu.com, and they sent me the proof of the book. Now this is obviously a time-sensitive book. It's a satire about Donald Trump and evangelicals, and it's a graphic novel. Once the election ends, people are either not going to buy this book or never going to buy this book. You know what I'm saying? There may be a few people who buy the book out of triumph or out of utter despair, but that's about it. So it was very important that I get the book out as quickly as possible. And then they sent me the copy, and the good folks at FedEx lost my proofs.
Oh,
yeah, lost my proofs. And every time I call them, they're like, well, we delivered them. No, you didn't, though, did you? I have a service called what's it called? Parcel pending, which, if anyone in the audience knows this means that when you deliver anything to me, it goes into a secure locker. And then I get a text to get it out of that locker.
Sure.
Got no such text, therefore you did not deliver it. Okay, you may have delivered it to the wrong address, whatever. So I was in the darkest, deepest pit of despair, and I'm a person who's naturally depressed as a person. I deal with that all the time. Not a big deal. I'm just telling people. So I was in a very deep, dark place. So how could I climb out of it? Well, I turned to the people I loved. I turned to the people I liked. I talked to people about it, and I immediately found something else to do. I believe in spheres of influence. Are you familiar with those?
Well, yeah, but maybe you can kind of talk a little bit about that as well.
Okay. All right. Spheres of influence go like this. You have to imagine that the world, everything in your life, is divided into 3 spheres. Concentric circles within each other, closed off from each other. The outer sphere is the stuff you have absolute control over. Okay. Then there's one where you have some control.
Right. And
then in the middle is the thing where you have no control whatsoever. Okay. No control whatsoever would be like, the book has not been delivered, and I can't, make it materialize. Yeah. I can't do that. But there's a sphere outside of that. Well, I can talk to the companies and have them, go through this. And then there's a sphere outside of that you have total control over. And that sphere, in this particular case, is do something else.
Right.
Do something else. Now, you can name that something else, and you have complete control of that, okay? And you can distract yourself from it. If you're lucky, it's something that's related to the book.
Yeah.
You know, and that for me, because not only do I have a problem with depression, I'm a little OCD. So I know I'm not going to be able to just forget about this. So I need to find something in the outer sphere that's involved in this book that gives me a sense of accomplishment, like I'm still moving.
Right.
And that's how I deal with the darkest of all dark times. Other people, y'all may have 1,000 different, wow, I yelled everyone. I'm sorry. Okay, y'all may have a very different way of dealing with things. And if it works for you, do it. But this is a pointer I would give you. If you don't have a way of doing things, simply draw those 3 circles. And the act of drawing those 3 circles and writing things in them is amazing. And after a while, you don't have to draw the circles. You just have to focus on them and think about them. I'm at the point now where I just think about the 3 circles and I go, you know, and honestly, also be okay with forgiving yourself that you're in the middle of that circle of the stuff that you can't control.
Right.
You're in the middle of that and you can't seem to get out of that circle. Forgive yourself. There is no reason to beat yourself up over that.
Yeah.
Just be aware of it, and keep trying to move to the outer circles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the key. Is like, you know, not trying to beat your head, you know, against the wall, against something that, like, you know, just isn't working. I mean, you know, like it's, if you can't, you know, go through it, try going around or kind of, you know, or just, you know, go to a different wall, like kind of, you know.
Exactly. Get on top of a pinnacle somewhere and just look at the wall for a while.
Right.
Go, wow, that's the wall, huh? Yeah. Well, I'm not going there today. You know, and it really is that. You know, the things that you do. I don't want to sound like cliche, but the things you do, creative things you do, should bring you joy. They should make you happy. You know, that's the first payment. I don't care if you're an actor or a writer or a mime. If you are, stop being a mime. It's nobody likes you.
No.
Your parents talk about you, man. Anyway, but no matter what you do creatively, you know, it should make you happy first. It's not about fame and it's not about the paycheck.
Yeah.
What's about the paycheck is your day gig. Okay. And if you're lucky like me, you got a day gig you love where you feel useful. Like I work for libraries, man, and I'm not a librarian, but I work in a library. And when we were open, I got to give kids books. I mean, that's great. I got to introduce children to new ideas and new thoughts. I got to talk trivia about movies and books all day long. And now that we're not open to the public, I actually get paid to read comics. I get paid to read comic books and to write critiques on them and to run a wonderful program where we're like-minded adults, again, ranging in age from 18 to, we got at least one septuagenarian who comes regularly, white, black, Asian, of all kinds of Asian. All of these people get together and we just discuss a book, man. And that's, I'm lucky. I'm just completely lucky, but I'm not lucky. I'm someone that said, this is what I know how to do. And I talked to someone and they said, here's your opportunity to do it. And then I took advantage of that opportunity and now I'm flying on my own on it, you know? So it's really focusing on your joy.
One of the things you just kind of just said that really kind of you know, resonates with me is just this idea that, like, you know, and even Liz Gilbert, you know, Eat, Pray, Love fame, kind of, you know, said it in her recent book about creativity, that, you know, you don't want to have your livelihood depend on your creativity, until it pays for it. I mean, like, I think that's a great kind of point. Just at different times, do the things you love to create, just for the sake of creating them. I mean, that I think that is an awesome way to come about it. Yeah. So, any kind of other thoughts about that? About, like, kind of, just this idea of just creating, like, you know, besides, of course, like the timeless and all that. What was it about kind of doing this that really kind of made you kind of really move forward right now during this time when everything's in lockdown, everybody's kind of basically just
Right. Part of what really made me move forward on this is you got to find things that make you feel useful and vibrant during lockdown, and that means sometimes you have to create something that makes you feel useful and vibrant. And I had written most of this, almost all of it, before lockdown actually happened, but I wrote it very quickly. I mean, it was like just a hobby that I had done very quickly. As soon as lockdown happened, I found myself with more time to actually dedicate to it. And so right now, that's the reason I look at the library I work at the same way, that this is a time of opportunity as opposed to just a time of stagnation.
Right.
So we're kind of rearranging the inside of the library right now so that it's easier to find everything than ever before. And so that we've got things in better order than ever before. And that it's cleaner and more, than everything ever before. And when it opens, it will be better than the place I worked at before. When it opens to the public, I know that it will be better because we put this team effort together to make that happen. The same thing should happen with COVID and your creativity. Your creativity should be treated as the chance to open up opportunity. I know I sound corny. I know I do. No, I'm serious. It sounds like motivational speaking that you hear on an effing TED Talk. Am I allowed to use the F word here? Okay, I don't know. But it sounds...
Go for it.
Okay. It sounds like it's inappropriate because I didn't put it in the sentence, but okay. You got to find a way to actually make this work for you. And not look at it as a TED Talk moment, not look at it as inspirational thinking, but internalize it. Yeah. Just say, that's part of me now. I'm involved in a group in the entire Los Angeles public library system that is basically about internal leadership. It's about being a leader no matter what level you're on. Okay. Right. And I got involved with that because I was like, we need people to see that in themselves. We need people to see that they are the ones that do these things, that they're the most important part of every single equation. Okay. You are the most important part of every equation that you're doing. And for you to even think for a second that you're doing you a disservice. You spent an entire lifetime feeding and clothing one person. Don't slight that person now. Don't act like that person is less important than everyone else. So that's where I'm at on the creativity gig, and on the idea of finding your own voice and your own strength in these things. I think I'm going off track somewhere. I'm old.
No.
I'm old. It happens. It happens.
I think it's an absolutely great point that, like, there's I think, to me, the other kind of aspect is that, like, creativity isn't just about, like you said, for any kind of recognition or reward, or it's for its own sake and for our sanity. I think that's probably, like, kind of one of the key things that I really get that from what you've done, and also I think that, like, from other friends who I've seen, like, kind of thrive during this time. I think that's how, in the end, I personally feel we're going to get through this. Is just finding our channel or outlet for, you know, like kind of this energy and stuff. So
Yeah, and here's the thing: the first definition of thriving is
mm,
to find your own definition of thriving. You know, don't let somebody else
yeah,
decide whether you're
yeah,
thriving or not. I have friends that are making a
mm,
lot of money as actors. I mean, I got at least one friend who's making millions of dollars a year as an actor. Okay, and she's wonderful. She's amazing. Gotten an Oscar, gotten Tonys, you know, all that stuff. Um, she's thriving, but I know other people who are living in regional theater
mm,
in Indiana, okay, and they're making enough to live.
right.
That's thriving. Okay, that's thriving. This is their job. They're thriving.
Mm,
So and then you have people who are just happy to be in community theater.
mm-hmm,
Um, if you are paid in happiness, that's thriving. Okay, as long as you can actually feed yourself as well. You know, same is true with writers. The lady that talked me into writing my first book was a woman that came to the library I worked at, and she would read to children, just, you know, for fun, as a volunteer. It was her thing. She read to children, and then one day I talked to her, and she's like, "Yeah, I'm an author." And I'm like, "Cool. I've always wanted to write a book. I started writing one, never finished it." And she's like, "Well, then you got to finish it." And I'm like, "Yeah,
yeah,
okay, fine." You know, and she's like, "No, you have to finish it. And here's what I mean. You have to write 200 words a day. And then next week, you tell me how many words you wrote." And I'm like,
mm,
"Okay." You know, and I found that I was writing 200 words a day because somebody
nice.
was holding me to that. Then I found it was 500 words, and I topped off at 1,000 words per day. That's what I was topping off at while doing my job. And so that was, you know, that was one of those moments where I was lucky enough to run into someone who was a professional and who had who dedicated some of her time to me, which I think everyone should do. If you are a professional, you should be dedicating some of your time to someone else. Mentorship is one of the most important things you can ever do. Okay, because you're giving someone else a gift,
Yeah,
and that gift was given to you already. Okay, I don't care who you are. You may think that you got here on your own, but some of it was given
yeah,
to
yeah,
you, right? Okay,
definitely.
so the deal is that on the one hand, she's out there mentoring me, and now I'm trying to mentor other people in some ways, you know, as best I can, you know, uh, and uh, and and it just made it work for me, you know. Anyway, again, went kind of off the rails there.
No, no.
Yeah,
This
but
this has been great, Jay. I really appreciate you kind of taking the time to talk about not only your book but also like your creative process. So once again, John Chang with Jay Blakemore with the Trump Testament, and yeah, definitely we'll share the links. You know, is there somewhere else that like folks can find you, reach out to you, connect with you?
well, right now, oof, to reach out or connect with me, well, you can always see me on Twitter. You know,
Okay,
find me on Twitter. I'm there as the Jay Blakemore.
okay,
Capital letters, the Jay Blakemore. No periods in there or anything. And I'm on there being obnoxious to conservatives. And right now, a lot of it is advertising my book because it's very, very hard to get a self-published book to move forward at all. Um, you can also find me on Instagram.
okay,
I'm there as probably uh, underscore just underscore CGI.
okay.
Probably just CGI. Um, uh, and so you can reach me there. And I think that's about it. I mean, people
Awesome.
can probably reach me through my agent too. His name is Eric Myers, and
Okay.
he's a great guy in New York City. Um, he is in no way involved in this book, okay. But if you are interested in, say, YA supernatural novels for young black men, these are action oriented novels, okay. So I got to tell you that right off. But they all have um, higher messages in them. Bulletproof Deacon is very much an indictment of the what do you call it, the prison system in America, and I go into a lot of that in
Right.
that book. Here Comes Anti-Claus. While it is a hugely funny book, I mean, everyone loves this book so far. It is also an indictment on fake spirituality and fake Christianity, where we're talking about a war on Christmas while forgetting Christianity.
Right.
And then the last one, Slightly Better Creatures, which is basically about a were hyena. And a group of gangsters who find themselves facing insurmountable odds of white supremacists. It's kind of a Dirty Dozen kind of thing, and
Nice.
a lot of them die. And I'm telling you this now, okay? So don't get connected. But it does have a larger message about what is behind white supremacy, and it has a very strong feminist message about the leadership of Black women in Black society. Because, spoiler, hyenas are matriarchal, and so it's a matriarchal society.
Wow.
The female hyenas run everything, and my were hyena is a girl, and so the person who's the most powerful MF in the book, she a girl. You know, so if anyone is interested in any of these books, you can contact Eric Myers and tell him you'd like to resurrect them and take a look at them and maybe put them in a small press somewhere and help out some young Black men and young Black women so they can read some stuff. Anyway.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely be sure to share the links. And yeah, so thanks again, Jay. And we'll definitely make sure that the folks know about, kind of these different ways to reach you.